Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back to my channel. I'm glad you're here as we're going to have a discussion on transiting Saturn in Aquarius. This energy started in late December 2020 when both Saturn and Jupiter entered Aquarius together. Perhaps you remember that. Well, we're going to talk about what the Saturn in Aquarius energies are showing us, where they're testing us, where we're being challenged, and where we're having some reality checks around what is really working in our lives, in the world, and where there are going to be ongoing collapses, destruction, and endings. Now, Saturn continues through Aquarius into 2023, specifically until March 2023. And as it moves through all 30 degrees of Aquarius, it's testing the Aquarian energies that we have in our world and in our lives. So Saturn is about the physical world we live in, the constraints and restraints of daily life. Saturn is about time, how much time we have in a day, how much we can do in a day. We only have so much energy. We can only accomplish so much. Saturn is about the boundaries of our world, of our physical selves. It's about how we have built up our lives, where we have responsibilities and commitments, where we need to be disciplined and have follow through. Sometimes that Saturn energy can weigh very heavily on us, because Saturn is about what we carry energetically and otherwise, what we have to take care of, where we have to put in work, diligence, effort in order to have rewards and accomplishments. Saturn is about how we're living our real world lives. And it's an energy that grounds us, that brings us into our physical selves, that brings us into the homes we live in and the commitments we have to take care of. It shows us where we can't take shortcuts, where for all the ways that Jupiter makes things buoyant and easy and there's flow, Saturn says, now wait a minute, we're gonna have to work on this. We're gonna need to take care of this, be very clear, have a plan, have a strategy. What's the end result? Where are we going? Saturn is also concerned with long-term perspectives, what you're doing now for the long term, what you're aware of in terms of what you need to take care of, and where we have to show up, where we can't just disappear like Neptune. We can't just fly away or not pay the bills. It's what we do every day that counts. And Saturn is an energy that helps us maintain a level of maturity and responsibility for our lives. Now, as Saturn moves through Aquarius, Saturn tests things. How strong is this? Is it working? Is it providing a needed function? Is it supporting what people need right now? Is it something that is still working? And what we're seeing with the Aquarius energies is that we're looking at communal places. Aquarius is about all the various systems and pieces that come together and form a whole. And it's where there are collective energies that intertwine and that work together. Aquarius is about these complex systems, yet how they all can come together and operate. Aquarius is associated with where people go to experience multiple energies, where you can go and have an experience around many people. So groups, gatherings, conventions, concerts, stadiums, theaters, right? Sporting events. These are all Aquarian energies. They're all about collective energies that come together. Aquarius is also associated with where we're going in the future. It's about the new technologies, the next technologies, what we're doing that advances humanity. So we see this through AI, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, new ways of working with robotics, new forms of space exploration, technology, engineering. All of these are Aquarian themes. And Saturn is moving through and showing us what works, what doesn't work. What is sustainable, what's not, what is weak. And if it's weak and it doesn't stand on its own, it will collapse, it will fall, and it will have to be rebuilt. So ultimately, the Saturn energy can show us where new structures are required, where something new can be built in its place if there's a solid foundation, if it's still needed and required. Now, we can look around and see how since 2020, Saturn in Aquarius has shut down, along with the energies of Pluto and Neptune, shut down what doesn't work because people aren't able to gather there. You remember in 2020, the lockdown, quarantine, all the things that were shut down, all the ways that we couldn't go to places or events, concerts, sporting events, movie theaters, right? It all moved into another format. And Aquarius is the energy of everyone jumped on Zoom. Everyone went digital. Movies that you could only see in the theater were now available to purchase at home. So the Aquarius energy will transition us into new technologies if something isn't sustainable. And we've seen this also through retail, brick and mortar. Unfortunately, local small businesses as well, being really challenged with the shutdowns, the lockdowns, the quarantines, and how they've had to restructure their business models. And I thought about how restaurants that were closed had to repurpose, right? Where they're now selling ingredients. Instead of going to that restaurant, you could go there, instead of buying the meal, maybe you were gonna buy the tomatoes or the avocados that they would use in their dishes, or you'd buy the bread. Many restaurants, of course, were able to transition to more takeaway or delivery orders. So the Aquarius energies require us to move something forward. With retail, brick and mortar, so many more businesses now are online. Everyone's ordering everything online, have it delivered. And this is also something that's being tested. Saturn coming through and testing how sustainable is this? How many cardboard boxes can we have in our houses? How many, delivery trucks can bring something to your front door? We're seeing this with the global supply chain. What's sustainable? What's working? What doesn't work? So these Saturn and Aquarius energies show us what has legs and what doesn't. And in our own world, in our own personal lives, it's also showing us where we need to make some choices or decisions around what we need in our lives, what's working, and where we're ready to transition and move forward. So as Saturn transits through Aquarius, we're going to see more of these businesses, these parts of our lives being tested. Aquarius rules airports, air travel, space exploration. So there's a lot that can be renovated. There's a lot that can be developed and moved ahead. Aquarius supports us in thinking outside the box. What are new solutions that are going to work, that people are going to adapt to, that will be functional? So very practical concerns. Now, as Saturn continues through Aquarius, there will be more things that are challenged around collective energies. And we will see how that plays out. But we've already seen how many of these Aquarian places were closed and shut down in 2020 and parts of 2021. And as Saturn moves through Aquarius into early 2023, we're going to be required to find these new solutions and to think differently, to be aware of what's possible, even if we don't know how it all comes together just yet. Saturn will show the way. Saturn will say, this will work. Bring this together. Try this. But it does require the trial and errors to see what is sustainable. Now, in your own chart, transiting Saturn in Aquarius is asking you to gain clarity in more about who you are, your individual energy, what makes you different, what sets you apart, and to listen to these parts of yourself, because the advancements that are possible here are things that we can't always quantify or qualify right away. It's almost like there's something that comes to mind quickly, and then we look at how we can apply it. How is this going to work? How is this going to operate? Is it functional? And there can be parts of your life that are really being tested right now because they're not working. They're not efficient, and you're ready for change. You're ready to do it differently. You're ready to try something in a way that maybe just seemed impossible, or it just didn't seem like it could be plausible. So this is an energy that's requiring us to tap into our own brilliance and to try something new. It's okay to try something off the wall. There's an experimentation here to see what is best for you and what you're going to discover as you follow these new pathways and these new possibilities. Now, Saturn spends about 2.5 to 3 years in each astrological sign. And this is the first time it's been in Aquarius for about 28, 30 years. And so it comes through and it really brings our attention to these matters in our lives. So transiting Saturn is moving through a particular house or houses in your astrology chart. And it's where you have to put in the work, where you have to apply effort, think differently, be open to new solutions, new technologies, new possibilities, and to look at, well, is this really something that's in alignment with where I'm going and what I want in my life? Aquarius is a visionary. It's the energy of the future. It has quantum potentials, things that we can't always measure because it's beyond what we can know at this time, but it can be helpful in even like leapfrogging, where you're making these dramatic advancements because that's where your energy is. That's where you're ready and willing to go next. So transiting Saturn in Aquarius is going to open you up to something you didn't see before. It's going to ask you to think differently and even give you some type of, maybe it's a yellow brick road, maybe it's some kind of pathway into a new future that you can realize. That's the best of Saturn in Aquarius, meaning it gives us something solid to build and grow on. But it does require us to understand who we are as unique energies and to own that, to not try to fit into the crowd, to not try to disappear in the audience. There's something here where it's like, well, what really grabs me? What am I gravitating towards? What interests me? What lights me up? Because when you're trusting that in yourself and understanding your own energy, what happens is the Saturn in Aquarius puts us in alignment with our future self. Your future self that already has some things figured out, that already has some things known. And it helps you get in that energetic alignment with where you're going so that you're honoring how you're an individual. You're honoring your unique skills and talents and how you do things differently. And it's allowing you to keep growing on your own soul's path by putting you in alignment with those possibilities and removing what's expired and removing what's done. So this is where Saturn does bring in the promise of diligent work being completed, where you have achieved something, you're getting the rewards because you put in that effort, but you've had to work for it. You've had to basically punch the time card or really get clear on what you want. And it's because of that clarity that Saturn shows you where to go next and what matters for the long term. Now, going back to a more global perspective, Saturn in Aquarius is definitely testing a lot of the structures in our lives that are either going to continue to serve humanity or they need to be upgraded, renovated, and they need to change. The thing about this energy that makes it even more serious is that in March 2023, Saturn completes the journey through Aquarius and enters Pisces. But in that same month, Pluto enters Aquarius. And that's when something is going to be permanently over in these Aquarian areas of our lives. Because as Pluto moves through and moves in, there can be destruction, endings, completions, and that's all about a transformation. So if, for example, you're aware that there's a house that abandoned, falling apart, it's not working, Pluto's the energy that comes in, tears that house down to the ground, removes that foundation, tests that foundation, removes everything that it's built on so that everything can be cleared to start again, to build again. So what we have here are ongoing Aquarian themes that are going to be tested beyond what we've known in this modern era, beyond what we've known in our lifetimes. Now, I mentioned how Saturn visits an astrology sign every 28 to 30 years. So we've lived through Saturn in Aquarius before, but we haven't lived through Pluto in Aquarius. And that's what brings in the intensity, the destruction, the endings, the changes, the permanent changes. It's a bit like whatever Saturn is testing right now, and I'm going to relate it to business models because Saturn is very much about business. The business models that have been tested in the Saturn and Aquarius years, if they're not able to really advance and really get into a new paradigm, Pluto will come through and wipe them out. Now, does that mean everything Saturn and Aquarius is going to disappear? No, not at all. It's going to need to be transformed. It's going to transform what we do collectively. And therefore, it's going to create some new experiences. So this could show us, well, what's really working in these Aquarian energies. Saturn is testing it until 2023. And if there isn't a new solution or a higher solution, Pluto in Aquarius may just destroy it, burn it to the ground so that it can be rebuilt again. So this is big energy. Again, we've never had this before in this lifetime. And it's definitely going to show us where humanity's energy is right now. What's working, what's not working. Where we're going to be required to find new solutions, new brilliance, new genius, where we're going to have the potential to be very creative, and where we're also going to see things change permanently. And I have done some other podcast episodes on this topic if you want to check those out, because this is serious. There's a seriousness to not only Saturn, but also Pluto. And it's bringing a seriousness to the Aquarian energies that we're all experiencing and moving through right now. So I wanted to put this into basically like a longer storyline where transiting Saturn in Aquarius is there for about 2.5, 3 years. But then Pluto in Aquarius enters the chat, enters the conversation, and that's a much more powerful energy. And that's where we're going to have even more permanent life changes. It's good to know this. It's good to know that that's what the energy is, and that's what this astrology suggests, because then we're aware of how, okay, the Aquarius energies are going to be experiencing a very deep renovation and restructuring. This can be exciting. This can be wonderful. And it can be hard and challenging and intense. So I'm certainly not trying to sugarcoat it or be Pollyanna here, but it's understanding that these are very big Aquarius energies. They're going to continue through the whole decade and beyond into the next decade. So these are very important energies, and I feel like the Saturn in Aquarius is showing us, again, what works, what doesn't work, what is solid, what is complete. And there's an energy here where the more we're able to be open to new solutions, new possibilities, new things that we can't even fathom yet. I mean, that's part of it too, is that we don't even have an understanding of what we're going to need, but this is how humanity is growing, and it's how we're evolving together. So I hope this has given you some good things to think about or be aware of. It is a big energy, and it is an ongoing energy. So we shall see what lies ahead, but thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope that this has been helpful, and I'll be back with another video here on YouTube very soon.